All right, what's up, guys? I'm Alex Himmler, or Himles with Punch TCG here. Over the weekend, I went 6-0-1 at our OTS Shop's trophy tournament for the DMG trophy, and ended up getting first place with Rikka Sunavalon. This was a deck, if any of you watched the podcast, I talked about it last week, where I was like, okay, this deck seems really cool, and I wanted to pick it up again, because I played it when it first started to get popular like, I don't know how many months ago, a while ago, like the very first iterations of the deck, and I dropped it because I was like, maybe it's just like, I wasn't feeling the deck at the time. Well, I was getting that itch to play the deck again and picked it up for the most part a couple weeks ago, and I've been really labbing it, testing it ever since then, really wanting to get my combos down, and it ended up paying off in this trophy tournament. So I'm here to give you the deck profile. It's pretty standard by most means. I think the Rikka Sunavalon engine, for the most part, the ratios, at least for this format, are pretty solved. I mean, I guess shout out to all the really popular plant players like Jess Robinson and Thomas Rose. I got, most of the ratios from them. Some of the tech choices were my own, tailored towards my own locals, but everything ended up working out. When 6-0-1, I faced, you'll see what I mean about weird tech choices or different tech choices. So I played against Runic Stun round 1, Grenmaji Stun round 2. I played against Scareclaw Adventure round 3, and then Flunder round 4. Then I played against Ninjas into top 4 match was against Branded, and then Flunder again in the finals. So my locals is pretty back row heavy and plays a lot of weird stuff. So some of the tech choices I made maybe aren't standard or what I would play like at a YCS or whatnot. But I mean, the deck has like a solid, I'd say 9 or 10 slots for non-engine. So I basically took the opportunity to take those slots and tailor it towards what I thought would do best for the locals. So let's get right into the deck profile then. 3 copies of Loci. It's like your 1-card combo, and it gets you into like, I think 6 negates, like on its own if you go uninterrupted. The 1 twin to go along with it, you need it for the combo. It's kind of annoying to draw, but it's like, if you draw unexpected die plus twin, you're still able to combo, so it's not too bad. 3 copies of Rikka Petal. Again, Rikka Petal on its own, it's like 2 to 3 interruptions, even without like this engine, or like without the Loci engine. Or any other like Rikka names. So it's a starter technically. It gets you into recursion too, because it summons itself from grave every single turn, and it gets you into whatever other Rikka name you need, with Mudon usually being the most important one, since you really need field spell access in this deck. The 3 copies of Rikka Princess. This card's really crazy. My opponents had to keep reading it. It specs itself from hand for fun, just because it can. Hand trap from the hand or the graveyard, just shuffling itself in and then tributing a plant for cost, and like negating your opponent's monster and then destroying, like tributing another one of their monsters to negate is insane with the field spell up. 2 copies of Mudon. This is arguably like one of the most important effects to have go through if you don't have field spell access, because the field spell is like kind of what this deck runs through. It gets you to your glamour, it gets you to your trap card, it lets you tribute your opponent's monsters to help break boards, and on top of that, it's just a core part of a lot of the combos in the deck. 1 copy of Primula. Primula is like, you have to play it because if you open up only Loci and no other Rikka names, it's part of your combo, because you're gonna Glamour Tribute, add Primula, add Princess, Primula effect to spec yourself, because the plant was tributed, and then spec the Princess. But if you open up Loci and either your Mudon or your Snowdrop or a Princess already, you don't actually need to search Primula in that combo. So like playing 2 isn't really good necessarily, because you don't need her for every line of combo in the deck, but she is necessarily one and comes up, quite a bit, and it's also just like a good level 4 lower name to draw sometimes. And the 1 copy of Snowdrop. The 1 copy of Snowdrop's the last Rikka name that we play. Really good. Basically the core part of I'd say 90% of the combos to get to the end board, because her being able to copy one of your plant's levels on board and just make everything with a level on your board that field, on your field that level is insane. Let you go into like your double Strenna plays, like tributing one in order to for another effect, like for your Mudon effect to get out the Hyperiton, and then also having another Strenna negate or Strenna summon on your on your opponent's turn to go into like your Teardrop is insane. And she's like really helps you get into like whatever lines you need, or like basically a guaranteed extra deck monster at any point. One copy of Lone Fire Blossom. The Lone Fire Blossom, if you know the main combo line, it's like Lone Fire helps you get into your Therion line, actually, and it also later on it really helps post siding, being able to get into either any of your fun side deck options, whether it's like your Air Mage Jasmine to go for an additional normal summon for a Cactus Bouncer, or to go for your Materia Rosewood play. Just being able, like, soft ones per turn and being able to, triggers, like, some of your names in hand and, tributing off your Liliboria in order to get into the graveyard for Regulus is really good, while also not, like, burning a name unnecessarily. Therion package, 2 Lily, 1 Regulus. This is pretty standard, I think, at this point. There's too much evenly match going around. You need the Lily's also just a really nice level 8 plant extender that you can play for the deck. So like Lily, summon back like anything in your graveyard, like a Loci, equip it, send a Loci, add Disc Coliseum. So you get your Disc Coliseum, you get Regulus, and then like I said, you go Lone Fire Tribute off the Lily if you need, or let's say you've already even gone through your Regulus or drew your Disc Coliseum or whatever. Lily's just, it's a free level 8 plant body to make any of your links, really, or any of your main links, or go into your Teardrop. And then, Regulus, self-explanatory enough. It's a negate. You kind of need that right now. The one thing this deck struggles with is it doesn't have any spell or trap negation. So Regulus kind of helps circumvent that and get you around that. And then for monster hand traps, I only played Ash this tournament. Usually this would be a Droll and Lockbird, and I think next format it's definitely going to be a Droll and Lockbird, but I kind of evaluated what the local, I know kind of what my local meta looks like, and knowing who was at this event, the Ash Blossom was definitely correct, because we have a lot of really weird decks that are meta, and Droll's not always live against them, but Ash is live against all the weird stuff that's going on at locals. We have a lot of weird OTK, stun players, stuff like that, and Ash ended up coming up pretty big, I'd say, even in the main deck. So like I said, that's all for the monsters. So you can move on to the spells now. It's like the heart and soul of the deck, really, is the Rikka Con. Lets you tribute your opponent's monsters for cost. Sets any Rikka spell or trap from your deck. This deck solves so many. This and Princess solve so many of the deck's issues. It breaks boards for free, by triggering their cards. Doesn't really trigger any of their names or any of your opponent's cards either, because you're tributing it for cost. And it's just an insane board breaker, both on your turn going second, but also on the crackback on your opponent's turn, if you're able to set up a Princess Engrave or a sheet to tribute your opponent's monster, then take control of another one. It's insane. I think I broke my round 2. I played against some, what was it? It was some Grand Maju deck, but I bricked. But I saw Con plus sheet, and I was able to just survive through that, mitigate enough damage, and then kill him when I drew engine. 3 copies of Glamour. This card's really insane too, because it's either Rhoda for 1, or you could tribute a plant and search 2 with the same level. This helps you get into your combos with the really awkward hands. For example, Princess plus Glamour is your full Sunseed combo. The only thing you kind of miss out on is the Regulus negate, but this still gets you to 6 or 7 interruptions without seeing either Petal or Loci in your opening hand. It plays a little bit hard into Ash Blossom, because sometimes you spec Princess and they go, and then Glamour tribute your Princess to add your Petal and your Loci. If they Ash that, you're well, okay, they had it. But regardless, it's always a search for at least 1, and then usually it's going to be a search for 2 to help either extend your plays or get your plays going. I only played one copy of Sowing. Usually I would play the second one. I think 2 Sowing is definitely correct, but like I said, we had a really weird meta there. There's like a lot of stun players and like back row decks. So I knew that going in as soon as I showed up, I was like, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice a little bit of engine to like make sure I don't hard lose to like the 6 people main decking Tikaboo. So because I think Sowing at 2 is correct, by the way, because you might not think it's good to draw, but drawing like Sowing plus Princess is good. Drawing Sowing plus Petal is pretty good. All of those kind of help you get into your combo lines, and like basically full combo through not seeing Loci. I played 3 copies of Unexpected Die. This one's self-explanatory. It's just like 3 more copies of Loci, basically, as a starter. I had multiple hands where actually like I drew both of them, or I drew like double Loci and like double Unexpected Die. That was like kind of annoying, but on the other hand, I'm like, okay, if I start Unexpected Die and they interrupt it, I could just normal summon Loci, or if I normal summon Loci and then like, or if I Unexpected Die for Loci and they interrupt my Dryas, I'm still able to play the game. So this was really nice to have, for sure. You kind of have to play 3 because you want to max out your copies of Loci. Not much else to say about this one. The one Disc Coliseum, I think I've seen some people playing multiple of it. It didn't really come up. The amount of times I drew that card was insane though, you don't really want to see it too like hard draw, but it's not the worst because you could either, if you have access to get to a Lilyboria some way, you can still get to your Regulus Negate. And if you already have like your Lilyboria and like Disc Coliseum, you just search if you already have like Regulus or something, or you just need the Lilyboria for an extender, you're able to just search Lilyboria and it gets you that anyways. So Disc Coliseum was good at 1. I don't think you need to play 2. You definitely could. I don't think it would be that bad, but 1 definitely sufficed, and I never felt like I needed a second. 3 copies of Talents. This was definitely like the best non-engine card in my deck. The amount of times that my opponents would hand trap me, like Ash Blossom on like Sowing, which is probably correct, and then like, or like Ash on Dryas or something, and I just look at my hand and be like, okay, I could play through that, and I just go Talents, look at their hand, rip out the starter. Every single time I Talents ripped a card out of their hand, which I think was 4 or 5 times, I won that game. Just every single time. It was insane. There's only one time I had to Talents draw 2, and I lost that game because Talents draw 2 means you're pretty desperate. But to be fair, when I was Talents drawing 2, I'd basically already lost that game. We were pretty deep in, so. But yeah, this card was insane. I definitely would recommend playing this at 3 if you have access to it. You kind of have, because the way the Rikka stuff works, right, or the Sunavalon Rikka deck works, is you have to, if you let them full combo, you're probably losing to the deck. So they have to interrupt you, and Talents just like says either, okay, I'm gonna draw into my extenders, or I already have my extenders, so I'm gonna rip like I'm gonna gain complete knowledge of your hand, know what I have to play it through, and then rip like the best card out of it. Really, really broken. Here are the cards that I ended up playing instead of like some of the other starters I usually would. I played main deck 2 Cosmic and the Feather Duster. I usually wouldn't do this, but like I said, this local was kind of weird in terms of the decks that were going to be there, and I didn't want to just like, I knew I could compete with the meta decks very, very well. I was worried about losing to something like really jank that I wasn't prepared for. So, and knowing the players that go there, I was like, okay, I need to main deck some back row removal. So this was it. It didn't actually end up coming up, I think. I think I came up against Flunder once, like I Cosmic the back row, and it was like fine. And it came up against Ninjas, I think. But other than that, it didn't come up. I just didn't see the cards. And that's all the spells I have. Trap cards, 3 Imperm. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It just kind of hits most decks. Doesn't play into Talents or anything like that. It's just solid overall. So good going first, good going second, because it's good to draw as a 6th card, unlike a card like Droll or Ash Blossom, because this helps break boards. Also just helps you play into like annoying negations and stuff, because like negate and destroy against this deck's pretty good, and if you just start your turn impermanent, if you draw a 6 card, it's not that bad. Played 3 copies of Evenly Matched in the main. I don't think this deck necessarily has a hard time breaking boards, but again, I wanted more back removal. Main deck Evenly's good. Having the blowouts is really nice in this deck too, just because the less you have to play through, the better, because if you're able to blow out your opponent with Evenly Match without having to use too much engine, that means you could just use like the rest of your engine on like full comboing. I think I drew Evenly like 2 or 3 times and it got negated every single time. But that was a neg I didn't have to deal with later, I guess. So, and then last card in the main deck was Rikka Sunavalon. I kind of went over this earlier, but Rikka Sunavalon, if you don't tribute a card, it's kind of lackluster because it just says, oh, that target opponent's monster, that monster can't activate its effects for the rest of the turn. It's not like an imperm where it negates the effects, it says they can't activate it. But if you tribute a plant, you're able to basically take control of that monster until the end phase. So that in conjunction with the field spell just means you could tribute one of your opponent's monsters and take control of a different one for the rest of the turn, which is really good for just, it's like 2 interruptions in one, basically hard removing 2 monsters from your opponent's field, and like those 2 interruptions paired with like the rest of the Rikka cards without having to use any of your actual negates yet, like you don't have to use your Regulus negate or your Hyperiton negate, or Princess even, like you're in a pretty good spot there. I did draw this card like far more than I wanted to, but it still wasn't like, I wasn't upset anytime I saw it. So that was the main deck. I played 45 cards there. The plant engine was pretty standard. I think most of the non-engine cards are the ones that you're going to find the most flexibility in. And going to the next format, we really have to kind of weigh what tech cards we want to play, because the format's gonna change quite a bit with like Super Heavy Samurai and Pearly and the new branded cards. So there's a lot to kind of take into account there. But as far as the plant engine go, I don't think that's changing anytime soon. The extra deck here, I played 2 Dryas. You definitely should play 3 of this card. I couldn't get a 3rd one in time. A lot of times your opponents they'll end up stopping the Dryas with like an Imperm or something, and you need 2 Dryas to combo. So if you're able, like, let's say the Imperm stops your turn, but then you're able to stop your opponent from playing, by going into like another Dryas from the next turn with like, if you have access to another loci, you just wouldn't be able to do your normal combo anymore. And that actually came up like once or twice. I was able to play through it, but it was like definitely a little bit annoying to like not have the third one, access to the 3rd one. Double Healer. The Double Healer is, I wasn't playing this for a while actually, because I picked up the deck a while ago. I was only playing 1 Healer and the 1 Thrasher. But Double Healer is so good in this deck, because what I didn't realize at first until recently was Aramage Jasmine is the effect to add when you gain life points is a soft once per turn, and running Double Healer with the twin effect lets you trigger it twice. So you're able to get 2 pluses off of Jasmine basically, as well as like the summon from deck. So that's like your main. Those of you who know the basic bread and butter Sun Avalon combo. That's like integral to it, and it was insane. Every time I was able to get to that part of the combo, I won. The 1 Thrasher didn't really come up, but it can in different circumstances. There's an OTK line with Thrasher plus Melius, where Thrasher becomes like, becomes like 3,200 and can attack 3 times or something. It's pretty good, 3 or 4 times. So it didn't come up, but definitely can, and you should play the 1. Like I spoke before, Double Jasmine, even if you don't go for the double, you're playing more conservatively, and you don't go for the double Jasmine ad, having the 2nd Jasmine on the crackback, like if your turn 1 board gets pseudo stopped, is so good, because it just says summon any plant from deck. If you gain life, add a plant from deck to hand, which, let's face it, if you're getting kind of stopped and you don't go, because you're not going for Double Healer, well, you could go for Double Healer still, but you have a way to reborn the healer anyways with your twin and get the Jasmine ad. This card's insane. This is like one of probably the best extra deck card in the deck. Dance Peon, really good. It level manipulates from the graveyard to the link zones it points to. Like if you have level 4 and you have 2, like a level 6 and level 8, you can make both of them level 4. And that came up a decent amount to make like Strenna or make them both. That was basically it. Make them both level 4 to make Strenna. I think I targeted a Lily Borea one time to make 2 things level 8 because I needed access to the teardrop for some reason. But also on summon, if your hand's like kind of clunky, reveals the top 3, summon up to 2 plants that you revealed. That's it. The only drawback is you can't use them for link material, but that's pretty whatever because you're XYZing most of the time in this deck anyways. The one Melius Reborn, the dry is to get you into your Bengal Lancer. You can also Reborn a Loci in order to get to the to have another level on board for your to make your Snowdrop a little bit better. But majority of the time I was just reborning to make the Bengal Lancer, which is just another interruption in terms of a balance, and he could summon himself back. So a little bit of recursion there, 2500, really easy to go into with your normal combo line, and he's a fun card to use. 2 copies of Strenna, you definitely need 2 for like 100%. This card is, I know when I said Jasmine was the most broken card in the extra deck, this is the second most broken. This card says add back any Rikka or plant monster in your graveyard to your hand, and when it's tributed, just make any rank 5 or higher plant by using her as material. So it's like, it turns it basically into recursion and a free negate, and she's really easy to make with all the level manipulating you can do. Most of the times you're going to be going into the Hyperion, but like I said, if you set up double Strenna, you go turn 1, on your turn you go Strenna into Hyperion, and then on your opponent's turn, you'll tribute your own Strenna, and then turn her into a Teardrop. Teardrop's just, it's nice, 2800, she gains attack every time a card is tributed, contribute your opponent's monsters for effect. The Hyperion's nice, he's a like Mechaba type Omni Negate almost, like negate and destroy by detaching material of the same type. So a lot of times you want to save activating your field spell until the end if you're able to get to him beforehand, so you can attach the other effect he can do. He changed to like the activation of a monster, spell, trap, card, or effect, and he could attach the same type from the grave to your hand, grave to him. So usually you want to try to end on him with a monster and a spell negate, because like I said, spell, trap, negate is what this deck struggles the most with, because it's hard for them to put those up. But he's really good, he's crazy. This card is not quite as good, but you can make this one naturally, and she's really good just for quick spot removal. The last card I played was the second Teardrop. She actually came up like one time. I think the third Dryas is definitely better, but I mean, I had 2 of her. It came up occasionally before in testing, so I was like, okay, I'll just toss the second Teardrop in for the tournament. But like I said, that should probably just be the third Dryas. And I'll just go over the extra deck real quickly. 3 copies of Droll. This is pretty self-explanatory. The card's crazy right now. Next format is mandatory in the main deck for like super heavy and stuff. It's good against Pearly next format. This format is pretty good against Cash. It's good against like Runic for the most part, as well as like other random decks. I played against Flunder twice. It's pretty good against that. And then I drolled a Scareclaw Adventure player, and he couldn't play the game, so I won that. Droll's crazy. Definitely play that card. This is a searchable, like, continuous spell trap removal, basically off of your Glamour. You scale it, and then you could pop a faceless spell or trap on the field. So it's like it's searchable removal for like floodgates and stuff for the random trap decks you have. It didn't really come up. Every time I feel like I drew it every time I sided in, but then my opponent bricked and didn't have any floodgates. So at the end of the day, it's still like a plant name, so it's not like that bad. Here's the fun cards. Jasmine and Cactus Bouncer. I didn't really side into these any game. I only lost a few games really. I didn't have that many games where I was really siding into them, but I mean, you already know, if you set up your full board plus Cactus Bouncer, because Jasmine gives you an additional normal summon when your life points are higher than your opponent's, you just kind of auto-win that game, unless your opponent has exactly Dark Ruler or more, which I think most people aren't really playing at the moment. And then the other funny plant floodgate is the Naturia Rose Whip that limits your opponent to 1 spell or trap effect per turn. And having this up with the Regulus is really good because this negates effects and not activations, and this says your opponent can only activate one spell or trap. So your opponent activates a spell or trap, you Regulus negate it, and then they have no more spell or traps for the rest of the turn. And that's all the side deck monsters I had. I played 2 copies of Thrust. This is just any going second card you need, or could be a Glamour. I didn't end up drawing it, but the theory behind it was like really good. It's like more copies of Triple Tactics Talent because your opponent kind of has to interact with your deck in order to stop you. So you go for any like regular plays. You could talents into, you know, your talent, or you could thrust into your talents, your Dark Ruler No Mores. Or like I played 1 copy of Raigeki too, just because it's. But thrust is thrust. It's you can thrust into it, and if you draw it, it's never really that bad against most decks. I wouldn't want to play more than 1 because it's like really situational, but thrusting into it's pretty good in the right circumstance. And then I've cited the 3rd Cosmic and the 1 copy of Called By. Usually this Called By, so the 2 Cosmics in the main deck would usually be Called By in 1-for-1, but like I said, I kind of made some weird choices for this event because of the meta. So 3rd Cosmic, it's nice to see against the back row. The Called By, I cited in against like hand trap heavy decks or like Flunder when I knew they were citing in Shifter, or if they had Shifter. I didn't see Called By. The Cosmics I did see for sure, and those came up quite a bit. And yeah, that's everything. 45. 15, obviously 15 side, 15 extra. The main deck is like pretty, I'd say the main deck's pretty set in stone in terms of the plan engine, but you know, all the different tech cards like the evenly matches or the hand traps, I think you adjust to your local level, or I guess if you're play the YCS or Nats, you adjust it for whatever meta you're expecting.